a rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but that beauty.
Nice.
Trying to survive, trying to stay alive. Even though the streets are up, lights burned out, dope fiends die with a pipe in their mouth. Old school buddies not doing it right. Every day it's the same and it's the same every night. I wouldn't shoot you, bro, but I'd shoot that fool. Played me close and try to test my cool. Every day I wonder just how I die. Only thing I know is how to survive. There's only one rule in the real world, and that's to take care of you, only you and yours. Keep dealing with the hard times day after day. Might deal with some dope, but then crime don't pay. Black man trying to break in my house again. Thought he got off the dope, doing time to repent. Even though my brothers do me just like that, I get a lot of love, so I'm giving it back. Ghetto, talking about the ghetto. Ghetto, talking about the ghetto. Ghetto, trying to live our lives. Ghetto, won't you tell them about it too short? So just keep the game and don't call it crap. Cause to me, life is one part rap. Even though my sister smoked crack cocaine, she was 9 months pregnant, ain't nothing changed. 600 million on the football team, and her baby died just like a dope fiend. The story I tell is so incomplete. 5 kids in the house, no food to eat. Don't look at me and don't ask me why. Mama's next door, getting high. Even though she's got 5 mouths to feed, she'd rather spend her money on the HIT. I always tell the truth about things like this. I wonder if the mayor overlooked that list. Instead of adding to the task force, send some help. Waiting on him, I better help myself. Housing Authority and the OPD. All these guns just to handle me. People are dying. Children are crying. Don't have enough to eat. Don't even have shoes on there. Even though they put us down and call us animals, we make real big banks and buy brand new clothes, drive fancy cars, make love to stars. Never really saying just who we are. We use alias names like Too Short. Sell your stuff you might kill for. Young kids grow up and that's all they know. Didn't teach him in school, now he's slanging dope. Only thing he knows is how to survive, but will he kill another brother before he dies in the ghetto? You keep one eye open all day long, just hoping and hoping you can pay your bills and not drink too much. Then the problems of life you'll be throwing up like me. But you don't see 10 years from now, where will you be? Ghetto, trying to get out of the ghetto, but I got no place to go. Ghetto, trying to survive in the heart of the ghetto, cause that's the only place that I know. So much gaming and Too Short rap. Can't be white, whites can't be black. Why you wanna act like someone else? All you gotta do is just be yourself. We're all the same color underneath. Short dog is in the house, you better listen to me. Never be ashamed of what you are. Proud to be black, stand tall and hard. Even though some people give you no respect, be intelligent when you put them in check. When you're ignorant, you get treated that way. And when they throw you in jail, you got nothing to say. So if you don't listen, it's not my fault. I'll be getting paid, you'll be paying the cost. Sitting in the jailhouse running your mouth while me and my people try to get out. Talking about the ghetto. Talking about the ghetto. Talking about the right to survive. Talking about the right to life.
Okay, man. It's none. It's always good to hear some wisdom in a song instead of hearing all that shoot 'em up, bang bang. and demon time stuff.
Uh,
I want to say welcome to the We Us and Ours show. I'm your host, Michael Phelps from the We Us and Ours. As I always state, We Us and Ours is a communication group, an educational group, to push the narrative of change in our communities and in our families. Whatever happens in the family spills out into the community. So we definitely are addressing family issues. These are in our community. We can't speak for other communities, but we can speak on evolving our community to a better and productive place. But I'm gonna let the kings and queen introduce themselves.
sure. Marion Bailey.
Jolly.
You want to get into some topics? It's Black History Month, and we can get into these things. But on a local note, I just wanted to say one of my personal faves, Jim's Rib Shack is open. And I would have gotten me some peach cobbler on the way coming, but the line is literally all the way down Ames. So I'm not the only one that is excited about the opening, but that line was backed up. I mean, yeah, almost to the gas station. So that's awesome. We'll get there maybe Tuesday because I'm sure they'll be closed on Monday. NBA announces a $200,000 investment and personal development opportunities for HBCU college athletes. This is really a long time coming, so I'm pretty excited about that too. Fannie Willis, the DA for Fulton County, Georgia. She's known for bringing charges up on rapper Young Thug. You remember she based those charges off of lyrics in his song. She also initiated the investigation in the 2020 presidential election in Georgia. Now, the results of that was the indictments on Donald Trump and 18 others. He had like 18 other co-conspirators in that. There was racketeering and some other crimes. Well, she is in the news for herself. She was having an affair with someone that was in on that investigation. And so one of her colleagues with that. Now she says that did not create it didn't taint anything with that investigation. But I would say stay tuned for the Trump administration to have something to say about that. So they haven't responded yet, but I'm sure that's coming. Oh, yeah. Former football player and legendary actor Carl Withers, he passed away at 76. He died in his sleep. So the Chiefs, go ahead. What was you going to say?
Was that the guy that died from Apollo Creed?
Yeah, and he was in Rocky too. Yeah. You remember that one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. The Chiefs and the 49ers face off next Sunday in Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes Sr., who is the father of one of the best QBs, he was arrested in Texas last night, a DWI. Unfortunately, this isn't his first time driving drunk. So in Texas, I guess 3 or more, it's a felony. He's looking up like 10 years in prison. So if convicted, right? And we can just put that out there. But yeah, Patty's dad. New York has secured over $183 million in compensation for the Holocaust victims and their heirs. Now, the governor said that the funds are earmarked and a plan and the timeline for reimbursement or disbursement, will be released soon. So that was interesting.
Holocaust victims?
Yep.
How much?
183, just the state of New York thus far. Yeah, interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Bringing us to our topic for today, which is by our own observation and not being biased, when we look at our families and communities, do we believe we are doomed? Is it because we don't provide most of the jobs or even enough land to show examples of growing our own foods and cultivating our own lands within our communities? So that is what we're discussing today, pertaining particularly to our communities of color. Why, if someone says we are doomed, do you believe it? If so, why?
You say communities of color that also includes the Native Americans and the Spanish-speaking people?
Do you want to include everyone or just only blacks?
The fixer community, each facet has their own entities of issues that they have to fix. well, why we target us as blacks in our community, not, is because we have not focused on the issues within our own because we're too busy including everybody else. Sometimes that's good. We know we in a world where we're neighbors.
Sure.
Yeah, we're neighbors, but within the neighbors, each neighbor has a accountability and responsibility to do as a neighbor. And I think as us being a family or community, a hood, because we're not a community. We're not a community because we have a hood mentality. That's why this topic is. Or do you consider us doomed? Do you believe? I keep hearing people say we're doomed because of our behavior, the way we treat each other, the way we interact with one another, illiteracy, the lack of resources that we utilize for each other. What do y'all think about the word?
First thing that comes to mind for me is to answer the question. First of all, no, not doomed.
Thank you.
First, say that doomed is irreversible. So when you say I am doomed, you say you are something. You're saying that you're incapable of being anything else.
Mm.
For the simple fact that every day that we wake up, we still have breath in our lungs, whatever the case may be. We're not doomed. We have opportunity. It's what we choose to do with that opportunity that matters. Turn that over to somebody else.
Now, Wesley Williams says, yes, we are doomed. So Wesley believes we are.
I would like to try to, when I see a lot of our culture and some of the behaviors that I see, I get to the point sometimes we think, man, there's no way, there's no coming back from where we at. But then I always have to believe that there's always hope. Because when there's a will, there's a way. When there's life, you can create change. When something dies, you can't change something that's gone.
True.
But you can change anything while there's a living, breathing entity, a body, or a spirit willing to fight for the change. Now, how did that change go about? Now, that's a collective thing as well as an individual thing. I just think that I don't believe we're doomed, but I do believe that we're lost. And I believe that we have lost our faith in the higher being greater than ourselves, the thing that gave us the life itself. And I think that we have disconnected ourselves from that. And I think that's why people think we're doomed, because of that disconnection piece. Anybody?
Jumping in.
I don't want to.
I've over the last since last week, I've really been. I look at the programs, and I go back and selfishly I look at myself, and a lot of times, like when some subjects come up, then I notice even like my body language, and in that I always equate the body language with subject matter. And then I start to categorize them. What are those things that I'm all right with, and what are those things that kind of get to me, and things like that. So what I've been doing is trying to equate how realistic I am to myself. And I don't know if y'all are familiar with Dr. Umar Johnson.
Yep.
Okay. Over the last couple of weeks, I've really been looking at not only his recent programs, but because he's been doing a lot of traveling and going to a lot of places, particularly like even in the Midwest. And he's already identified that Midwestern people don't have the same consciousness as those in the East or those in the far West. Okay. And I've been dealing with the subject matter, and then I come to the realization, well, you're not that far off. If he has any normality, and to me, he's probably one of the tops as it applies to that kind of knowledge and still having the youth in him to not be called old-fashioned.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
Mhm.
We aren't faring well, period. And the thing that really caught my attention that he also equated the piece about single parent households and the number of men in prison.
Mhm.
And that then kind of solidified and almost stabilized that we are doomed for eradication if we don't immediately realize that the so-called overseers of this country have demonized normality culture, and because we are so anxious to be part of it, we've absorbed a lot of kinds of things that we don't have no business dealing with. And even going back to our spirituality, it used to be a time that that's all they talked about. You know, you see our churches and we clapping and we do all that, but you don't see that no more. You know, you don't hear from any outside of the Nation of Islam. And the Nation of Islam, for all practical purposes, is not accepted by the masses of Africans and Americans as a legitimate religion.
Mhm.
But it reinforces the things that I'm talking about. We are in a annihilation state of being, all the way from our youth to our elderly, because you don't hear about what we're doing with our elderly. You don't see the effects of our youth developing in what we had anticipated they would. And in between that and between the elderly being annihilated and the youth just not getting here, everything else that we do is based upon athletics, sports, entertainment. And that goes back to the old gladiator concept of us being, slaves that come out to the center and entertain the masses of the people. And so I don't recognize us being in any kind of developmental state to get through this period of time without being seriously maimed.
I would say that you laid that foundation very well. What you just said, those are facts. Everything you just stated, and you're right. If there's not a change, and I think that's what we're talking about today.
Mhm.
The current condition, which you just laid out, and now it's a matter of what are we going to do about it, and it takes everybody's participation to bring about that change, to do something about it, because that's why, when we first started off, the question was asked, are we doomed? And I said no immediately, because it doesn't have to be that way. It's that way, and it's going that way, just like you said, towards annihilation. You're right. It's going that way, but it doesn't have to go that way. It's not that we can't turn around. It's not that we can't make other choices. It's not that we have to do what we do. It's because we allow ourselves to be put in a position of not having a choice. In the beginning, now, considering slavery, considering history and all that, yes, we were put in a position. That cannot be argued. Those are facts, okay? But the question is this: why would I allow myself to be put at a further disadvantage by making decisions that will allow people to or give people things to hide behind if they want to tell me no?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? In other words, and I tell young people this all the time, okay? If someone's going to slam a door in my face, if someone's going to tell me no, I'm going to make you earn it.
For sure.
I am not going to give it to you. I'm not going to make it easy for you. I'm not going to give you the felony to hide behind or whatever else. I'm not going to act a fool and give you that to hide behind.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because those things are used to as cover
Mm-hmm.
for people who want to snipe us to hide behind. That makes sense.
It does. Here, let me jump in real quick. Wesley Williams says, we are doomed because we don't have any offensive moves to checkmate our enemies. The only thing we use for defense is hope and prayer.
Responding to that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're right. Hope and prayer. And with that, where there's no action, yes, you're right. It's only hope and prayer.
Sure.
It's like sitting at home waiting for somebody to hire you for a job. Okay? No, I'm gonna call. I'm gonna bug you.
Right.
Until you hire me. I'm gonna bug you. I'm gonna be on your mind.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be on the forefront of your mind by constantly calling
Faith
you.
without
That
works.
when you come to think
Yeah.
about putting somebody in that position, my name comes to your mind because I've called you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, where there's no action, you're right. That faith
Right.
is dead. That hope is dead because there's no action behind it. So in that regard,
Yeah.
if you think if you don't want to put any action behind your words, yes, you are dead. You are doomed. But if you put some action behind those words, you don't have to be doomed.
And I think we too have gotten away from, and I'm saying we just as a whole, but I think we've gotten away from teaching. Like we're not passing down some things from generation to generation. Example would be, gardens. Like I can remember growing up, we had a garden. Several family members had gardens. We grew our own stuff. We might have had a family member that had chickens. Like we have fresh eggs. Like these things happened at some point in my life, and then it just kind of filtered off. We talked about slavery, and it's like we are in this land. That is a ridiculous amount of money that people get from those crops, from that wheat, if it's corn or whatever. And we got out of that field and we never went back into that. And it's like that, but those families, those farm families, that's generational wealth. We moved away from that. I mean, it's something where you can look at if we had a bunch of teenagers in here and tell them to sew a button on a shirt, like would they know how to do that? Thread the needle,
right,
and sew the button on a shirt.
Right.
That's what we were taught. We were taught these things, but somewhere, I don't want to call people lazy, but somewhere it just didn't pass down.
Well, and I would say, when I was growing up, he can contest to this. Our grandpa, which is his uncle, used to try to teach us how to farm. He used to try to teach us how to, at our age, because, I have to say I was the prodigal son, prodigal child. I didn't want to learn that. My grandpa didn't have the best technology. I mean, the best way of teaching you anything. He was like, either you didn't do it right or you was called stupid. And he yelled at you too. He didn't just, it wasn't like, oh boy, you being stupid. You stupid! He'd yell it at you. So it just kind of made us all shut down. And so we ran from him. We ran from any time. And then when we did try to stand up and help, at one point, I remember they was trying to come take my grandpa's house used to look like Sanford and Son. And he had all this junk in his yard. I'm talking about junk on top of junk. I'm talking about everybody in the neighborhood around the community came over there to get something from my grandpa. My grandpa always had it.
Yeah.
But he did not want nobody going in there touching nothing. He knew where everything was at. I'm talking about, you looking at yard, you be like, how would he know you just took one little thing? He knew you messed with something over there. That was just the way he was. But one time the city sent him a letter stating that if he didn't clean the yard up, they was gonna come in and clean it up for him, and they was gonna bill him.
And they gonna charge him. Yeah.
So he came to us. Now take it. Now we all was ready to go at one point in time to help do something. Soon we start trying to move something. Oh no! I gotta count. I gotta look. I gotta count that. I gotta make sure. So it kept prolonging and prolonging. So then when the time came, the city came. And they started taking everything out. They took, when grandpa probably he had a lot of money out there. I'm pretty sure he lost hundreds and thousands of dollars. And he blamed us for it because he said we wasn't. But it was, like I said, it was that time when we was young. We didn't take pride in young kids, they want to enjoy life, the fruits of the labor. They want to experience life. So we didn't take the time to listen to our grandpa when he was trying to help us farm, help us teach us how to raise the chickens and the ducks and stuff he had. And we didn't take that time. We didn't take all that. We just kind of like shunned that. So I understand that probably where the disconnect came at from the elders and the youth, because the youth at that point in time, back in them days, they tell us don't be doing that devil music. We would constantly be out there breakdancing.
Mm-hmm.
We'd constantly be doing stuff.
Having fun.
So
Right.
and we'd be like, oh, them old people don't know nothing. We wouldn't say to them because we knew we'd get smacked in the mouth. But that was what we'll say amongst each other. So I would say the blame started with both sets, the elders and the youth, because I think that communication, that connection piece got distorted in our generation because we didn't want to start pulling away from it. And I think my mom and them probably did first. I think they probably pulled away first. Then it just trickled down to us. Now you got more generations that's affected.
Do you all hunt? Like, this is one of our things, one of our points is about hunting and how the next generation doesn't know how to go out, hunt, clean, kill, cook their food. Like, is that something that you all are able to do? I know I can't.
A quick answer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It all depends on what you mean when you say hunt.
Okay.
Yes, I know how to hunt.
Okay.
Okay. And what I mean by that, and I know Brother Elisha has something to say, so I'm going to.
No, finish your thought, Mark.
But when it comes to learning how to hunt, do I know how to search? If I want to know something, do I know where to go?
Mm-hmm.
Do I know how to figure it out? Do I know how to use ingenuity?
Mm-hmm.
Do I know how to not quit until I figure it out? So if you ask me, do I know how to hunt? Yeah, I know how to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean?
Right.
Now, most people, when you ask them if they know how to hunt, they're thinking game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you know how to hunt with a rifle? Do you know how to hunt? You see,
Right.
But it's what when you mention that, the first thing I think in my mind is fluid intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I go back to when I was a child and someone taught me how to cross the street. But if they taught me how to cross the street and look both ways, now I know how to read before I sign a contract.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because I took what I learned about looking both ways across the street to making sure I read the fine print before I sign my name.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Safety.
So
Yeah.
we talk about hunting.
Right.
Okay, have I ever gone out into a field and used a rifle to hunt for game? No. But have I hunted in other ways? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's necessary to know how to hunt.
For sure. In all aspects.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. 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 Brother, did you have something to say?
Yeah. Once again, I gotta identify some things before I go into the subject matter. Every time it's been mentioned about the older generation letting the younger generation down.
No, I said two. I said both of us did. We let them down too because we didn't take heed or adhere to any of the things that they was trying to teach us too. So it's a double. It's a twofold. Yeah.
Now you make the second part much more easy. Because I have to really check myself because I realize that like I said, I'll be 80 in March.
It's coming up.
The first thing I had to check is who else is going to be 80 in March.
Mm.
I didn't run into many
that
operate in the same modus operandi that I do.
They're not making it.
All right?
Yeah.
They're already out the game.
They out. Yeah.
Okay? So then when I do that, that takes the weight off of me.
A little bit.
But that puts the weight on y'all.
This is true.
All right?
Yeah.
Because the things that you recognize is that you feel ill-equipped to deal with some of the issues that you have to deal with. And quite naturally, the first thing that you look at is the mechanism that should have equipped you with that in order for you to be equipped. there's only one mechanism that we as Africans and Americans have put in place, and it had not been destroyed, modified, but has not been destroyed, and that's our educational system. Okay? So at least 75% of your education comes from Europeans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The other 25% of which you have to base upon your immediate family life should not supersede that 75. Okay? That's minuscule. And here again, a single parent household and no men involved. And I try to begin to understand or recognize or get the right perspective of why that consciousness is in place. Okay? And that consciousness is in place is because of television.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
What would happen if we stopped looking at television? What would we do?
We won't be doomed.
We won't. What?
We won't be doomed.
You won't be doomed.
We'd find other things to do.
We'll find other things to do. We'll be more creative.
Maybe we would pick up a book and actually read it.
Yeah.
Maybe
And we'd be creative. We'd be outside like we used to do.
Go outside and actually find things to do. I mean,
Television replaced something that we already was doing.
Yeah.
So now we go back to,
I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's,
The original state.
if I stop looking at television, I would lose 85% of my ability to communicate to you. Okay? When I say you, I'm talking about the next generation. Because there's no identifiable organization, system, economic development plans that would let me know where you're headed for. Your frustration may be that you don't know where you're headed for. And because you don't know where you're headed for, you blame that on who you think is the responsibility of giving you that kind of information. All right? That's an extreme misnomer on both parts. Ours on letting you understand that this system is diametrically opposed to you developing positively, okay, at a certain time and space, particularly when you get on the other side of 55. That's when you start looking at the downhill road, okay. Normally, when years and years ago, you get to 65, and you think about retiring, but you still got a few more years, so you think I'll do some things in there. Because of a lack of accessibility, because of miseducation, it has allowed for that 55 consciousness to feel almost lost, because there ain't nothing that is visible outside of sports, alcohol. You gotta name another thing that draws our attention?
Chasing women.
That's sports.
That's gaming.
And is.
That's gaming.
And is.
That's hunting.
And that, like I said, that has really kind of set me back and really let me look at it. And in our perception of our situation, we don't have even enough access to affect Europeans for us to even think on doing something to them.
Check this out. Wesley Williams, he says, metaphorically, who's willing to climb into the master's house and slice his neck and slice his throat? How do we slice his throat?
Well,
and I'm saying the who's is us. Like, this is
well,
what
we're
we're talking about
why
doing.
you slice, how you slice their throat? By slice their pocketbook. By us coming together, deal with Martin Luther King and them did, boycott all the things that has fraudulence to us, that haven't got us any type of way to achieving any objective or any goal that benefits us to rising above our current conditions.
Growing our own food, getting some land, like, yes.
Own our own banks.
Even besides that, you have to address the initial issue. And Brother Elijah talked about that. Single parent homes,
Mm-hmm.
men in prison. How do you do that? Metaphorically, you proceed differently. Come up with a different strategy. In other words, stop going to prison.
Why is that the option?
In other words, it's a matter of, I am not going to give you an opportunity to take a shot at me. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
Put me back in slavery.
What?
Put me back in slavery.
Yeah, I'm not going to give an opportunity.
Because it's losing control.
Because if when men get the vision about, you know what, it's more important that I'm a father to my son, and more important that I'm a father to my daughter, than it is for me to be out here running these streets. Now I'm doing something worthy of being called a man. Okay, because now I'm re-strategizing. Okay, now things may not be perfect because there are systems in place that prevent you from getting certain places too fast.
Sure.
However, like I said, I'm not going to give you anything to hide behind. So I'm not going to work against myself by doing things that's going to allow you to take away from me the opportunities when they arise. I want to be ready. I want to be able to strike while the iron's hot. So in other words, if a job comes along that I can get, but now I've been driving too long without a license, now my license has been revoked. Okay, that's a problem.
Right.
Because now when the opportunity comes along, my license is suspended. So now I can't jump on that opportunity. You see what I'm saying? Or if there's a job that I want to get, let's say I want to go to school, whatever the case may be, and now, because you're a felon, you can't do this.
Right.
Again, I'm not going to give you that opportunity. So even if as a father, maybe that has happened to me, what I'm going to make sure of, I'm going to do my best to make sure that doesn't happen to my child.
Right.
Because now I'm going to pass down something to my child, something that maybe it's too late for me, but I'm going to pass it down to them. Okay.
And I want to add to what you're saying, because you're 100% correct. And then we got and as we speaking of passing it down, it's still up to the child to receive it and run with it. Because like I said, my grandpa was trying to push, pull, and lift us up to doing the things that was going to be beneficial for us in the future. As us being young, we're not seeing future things. We're only seeing momentarily. So in the moment, we only wanted to do what momentarily things that caught our interest, like breakdancing, listen to music that he said it was that what he used to say, that take that back, the back. What he used to make all that noise, and so those are the things that and I'm pretty sure at that time my grandpa probably said, "Oh, this new generation is doomed. They don't want to learn how to hunt, because hunting comes with a lot of skill sets. You just cannot just go out and kill something and just think you're gonna eat it. It's a proper preparation to prevent poor performance. If you cut the meat and you cut a sack inside of that meat the wrong way, you can contaminate the whole meat and you don't even know it.
What is the number one issue that has affected the African American community in America?
Well, one of the things that come to mind immediately is our willingness to entertain.
You mean like entertainment?
Like frivolous spending?
Our willingness to dance.
That's close.
So to speak.
That's close.
Perform.
Okay, that's close.
Act the fool.
Be the next
To act the fool.
What?
Our willingness to act the fool, no matter what the cost is, and
That's
how
close.
we do it in front of who.
That's close. What's the main issue?
Be accepted.
White education.
What?
White education.
What's the man? Tell us what it is.
Yeah, what is it?
Homosexuality.
All right, well, there's a lot there. There's a lot.
No, that is the number one
Yeah.
issue affecting African Americans in the United States.
Yeah, it keeps us from reproducing.
It's evil. Wow.
And it turns us over to a reprobated mind.
Mm.
That which causes us
It turns you over to a reprobated mind?
yes.
Or it makes you a reprobated mind?
Well, you get turned over to it because that's what your lust, that's what your heart desires.
I'll say this. I'll say this. Is that by the time you see a weed above ground, it's already grown.
It's already grown roots. Right.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, it doesn't turn you into a reprobate mind. It took a reprobate mind to even engage. If that makes sense.
What makes sense? What is the number one disease that has affected the African American culture?
Ignorance.
Hmm?
Ignorance. Now AIDS. It's AIDS.
How did they come up so quick like that?
Because it's the truth, but I was playing when I said
Did y'all
ignorance.
have that in y'all's mind?
Yeah. Ignorance and AIDS.
You remember when AIDS came out?
Yes,
Yeah.
In the 60s.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Do you know how many,
Lies it took.
the percentage of African American males that died from that?
No.
Or were affected by that? You know why you don't? Something like that you can name was the number one thing, but you can't say how the percentage was.
I wouldn't be able to say the percentage of COVID. And COVID took a lot of us. So what was the percent in the 60s? You're saying
And
in the
if you
60s?
remember when they talked about COVID, they said your pre-existing conditions would cause for Black people to be in that large category.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We are so.
I want to hear that percentage.
The percentages overall were never identified.
Okay.
Only in the places where it had the largest populations that it was so gigantic that they had to give it out, release those kinds of numbers. Okay?
Well, what were the numbers?
In excess of 65%.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Because of television, we as a people never really got the full gleam of it. If you lived in San Francisco, all right, or you lived in New York, or you lived in Atlanta, all right, or you lived in Florida, if you lived in Texas,
Yeah.
all right,
Cities that never
then you
sleep.
would know. It was unbelievable.
Sure.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
But because we don't control any communications, I was talking about this thing by Brother Allen, trying to do some things. We are so Europeanized in our consciousness that we don't think like slaves.
Now we've got a challenge.
What do you mean by Europeanized? Oh, well,
Yeah, we've got a challenge on the AIDS that we were just talking about. Wesley Williams says drugs and alcohol addiction is the number one disease that has affected our race. Abortion has killed more of our people than anything known to man besides natural death.
They're correct.
So that is,
But those are everyday things.
this is true. Yeah. There's also a comment that says, what would happen if every one of our people refused to work? That includes all forms of entertainment, all armed forces, and everyday 9-to-5 employees. What do you think the nation would do? I don't see the armed forces not working.
The only people that would be disrupted by that is us.
Right.
They'd replace you.
Right.
Okay.
Especially armed forces
They'd replace you.
in a heartbeat.
First of all, especially in armed forces, first of all, they'd throw you in prison.
Absolutely.
Then they'd replace you.
Correct. Correct.
That's so.
We don't even for us to be in the situation that we're in, communicating this, how many responses have you seen within the last? How many, just generally? How many people?
Over 10. I mean, at least 35.
That's not bad. Find out. See if you can tell the numerical breakdown of males and females.
That are on here now is mostly males.
That goes against. That shows how many people are really watching us. There's a lot of people watching us.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But in their activity, they don't want their peer group to know that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I can believe that.
All right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make sense out of a nonsensical situation. Okay. We don't. You know. And that's why I've been surprised. I mentioned before that when cable first came in, I was involved in the development of cable. When that was in I left the cable industry in '79 because I recognized then that the information that we were doing on the programs was entertainment. It wasn't informational. I don't know if y'all remember Channel 22 and all that. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't informational, so I left it alone because it was entertainment. It wasn't informational. We weren't taking it seriously. We are so past our ability to really internalize our inefficiency as it applies to being proficient in America, and it's all done purposely, that we are accustomed to it. I mean, and this is not just here in Omaha. This is overall. That's why I've said I've really been watching a lot of different kind of things. Here again, I deal with Dr. Umar Johnson because his system has allowed for him to gather information from all over, and that's all he does is program it in and get the results of it.
But I have a question. I understand the results,
These are
but my question is this: but how do you address the issue? And what I mean by that is
Using that data.
the data speaks for itself.
For sure.
Okay, it's an indication of where you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's an indication of the condition, the current condition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now we can all sit around and talk about the current condition day in and day out. That's what you meant when you're saying these conversations have been going on for centuries.
Sure.
And nothing has changed. That's what you meant, because you're right. These conversations go on time and time again. However, but has anyone asked the question as to why, and then one asked the question why, have they done anything about it? Because see, it doesn't make sense to continue to talk about something. It's like an old Cadillac spinning its wheels in the mud. You can sit and talk about it and say, well, this is an issue, and this is an issue, and this is an issue. What's wrong with our children today? What's wrong with our adults? How come the men are not fathers in our houses? How come we got so many men in prison? We talk about these things time and time and time and time again, but yet, right after the conversation, go right back out to the street. Go right back out and break up homes. Go right back out and rob, steal, cheat, do all these things.
Right.
It's like a whole purpose. It doesn't make sense to go over history, especially with it being Black History Month. It doesn't make sense to talk about a history that you're not going to do anything about. If you're going to talk about it, the whole purpose of talking about it is to actually do something about it. In other words, allow history in of itself to move you forward. Because see, when you talk about history, history can do one or two things. History can either make you very angry and resentful or it can inform you.
Mm-hmm.
Or cause you to give up.
Or cause you to give up. Okay, that's the angry, the resent. I think it kind of falls into that. It can cause you to give up, or it can inform you. Okay, now. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I need to do it right here because you on an exact point.
Okay.
I'm gonna put something in right now.
Go right ahead, sir.
75% of the households are women.
Mm-hmm.
Men are in prison.
Mm-hmm.
What are we supposed to do about it?
Well, first, well, go ahead and read the comments, then.
Okay.
No, we'll read these
Wesley
comments.
Williams says, it's a fact that abortion has killed more blacks than all disease, murder, and any other forms of death. Even Umar would agree. And what is he doing about it besides talking about it?
Okay. Now, now we're talking about.
I can explain what he's doing. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
He's invested his whole operation at the present time in getting out the words. That's why he's traveling all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
That's why all his programming and all his education is to bring the ignorant
Get the
to
information.
a conscious mind to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when I deal with the household and those in prison, when you think about it, you only have one recourse.
Do something.
Hmm?
You got to do something.
You said when you think about it, you're going to have one recourse.
You only have one recourse.
And that is?
Remove yourself from the system.
Do something. Yeah.
What do you mean? Elaborate.
I became a direct member in the Nation of Islam because they are the only physical mechanism that has enough outlets in every state for you to become part of it and either identify as a whole that you're going to have to become.
Go ahead.
You're going to have to be obviously resentful to the political structure that dominates you and causes for you to be in the situation that you are in.
Can I touch on that?
What's the next one?
Check this out real
Go
quick.
ahead.
So two things. One, Wesley, and sorry about that, Wesley. I thought you were talking about Dr. Umar because I thought that comment rolled into the Dr. Umar comment, but he says he's not talking about Umar, what Umar is doing. He's asking about Raymond. He said he's asking about the brother with the white ball cap on. He knows that Mike and Elijah they're doing a lot. So he's asking, what are you doing besides talking? I thought he was talking about Dr. Umar because it all kind of blended together. I don't know if you want to address that right now before we get into the next topic.
I can.
Subtopic.
I'll tell you this without revealing too much.
Yep.
Every day, and I mean every day, I pour into young minds.
Mm-hmm.
Every day. From the time that I get up to the time that I go to bed. And the reason why I do that is because I understand that our young people are our future.
Right.
And in order to address a weed, you can't just pull it from above ground. You got to address it at the root. And the root of our culture is our young people.
Yeah.
So therefore, I pour into young people hoping that they can bring about a change in that which has already been set in motion. So when we talk about Black history and the things that we've suffered, yeah, we can talk about those things day in and day out and say, well, this happened and that happened, and be resentful and angry, which is what I was going to touch on when you're talking about Nation of Islam. You're talking about being resentful. Yeah, you can resent the systems, but you can't allow that resentment to cause you to make decisions that are going to work against you.
When you say that, can you give me an example?
What I mean is, what I'm saying is that it's nothing wrong with resenting a system that's in place that one may say that is designed to hold you back. Okay? If I know I'm in a system that's designed to hold me back, then the last thing that I'm going to do is to do something to help them hold me back.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna take that information and I'm gonna use it to my advantage to move me forward instead of causing me almost like football, lose yardage, but with my own decisions. If that makes sense.
No, it does. Here, this next one, because we're in that vein, we're talking about the Nation of Islam, church and religion and whatnot. So the next one says, is it because families don't go to the same house of worship and practice the same faith anymore? Has this created an unwillingness to unite and pool resources for a common goal?
Well, you know, and just in our family, as I remember, we all went to the same church when we was growing up. And then as we started getting older, everybody started branching out. And everybody learned something through their faith. Now, what I have noticed, you know, me and my cousin always talk about this, and I always say this. We have so many people who are so religious in our family who go to who practice whatever how they practice. But there's no way we can all come together and unite in harmony. And you'll wonder why, because we're supposed to be worshiping the same God.
I'm getting ready to get in trouble.
And so and now worshiping the same guy and practicing the same thing is two different things. A lot of people don't practice what they preaching. I mean, what they learning.
Sure.
They easily recite.
Religion.
They're easy to read to just to recite, but they don't live it. And that's one of the biggest problems I see in family dynamics. And I can't speak for everybody's family. I want to just speak for mine. In my family dynamic, what I've seen that they don't whatever they've been reading and practicing learning, they don't put it in place so it can move, it can grow legs and grow arms and it can become a living entity. And I think that's why a lot of the families are falling apart or fell apart, I say.
Because of slavery, we've never had any control of the legal system. We've never been exposed to apparatuses that control the legal system to get righteousness from them.
Mm-hmm.
So after taking the chains off, even though our minds still have them, we went to spirituality. Because our spirituality that was implemented to us in our native land.
Can you elaborate on the spirituality that we had in our native land? Can you elaborate on that?
Universal consciousness.
What I'm saying is,
it wasn't Christianity.
What was it? I mean, when I think about, when we talk about native land, we're talking about over 50 nations, and they didn't all worship the same. So what I'm asking you is to elaborate on what you mean, where there was some kind of oneness or united, or that's what I'm asking you to do, is to elaborate on that.
All on this continent, civilization was created on the continent of Africa. It's called Eurasia. Mm-hmm. Which means that all beings that were created on this continent were of this hue. You didn't shake your head, right? I'm listening. You didn't shake your head right, though. I'm listening. I'm waiting for you to finish. I'm waiting for you to finish. What would cause the necessity for finishing that? Is that taking in Europeans into context?
Is that taking them into context?
Is that bringing them into the context when we say that all civilization started in Africa?
So you're saying, I understand that all civilization started in Africa.
Right.
But are you saying that everybody in every part of Africa was dark skinned?
Yes.
Every part of Africa.
In-
So
in-
there was
in-
not one light school.
in Eurasia, opening continent, and you can go all the way back through every religious text. And those that have no legitimacy today won't be able to take you that far back.
Mhm.
There are only one or two.
Okay, so where
Hebraic information
Mhm.
and Christianity
Mhm.
information, and only two. All right. Each one of them will identify that the original human
Mhm.
on the continent of Africa was black.
Mhm.
All right.
Mhm.
After thousands of years and massive genocide, Europeans developed the context and the information to fortify their position
Mhm.
as being the superior beings.
Mhm.
Slavery was the main mechanism was to show and to control not the reality, but the stability of that concept that they were the dominant culture.
Mhm.
All right. When all the stuff all fell out, when I say fell out, became more palatable, it was not realistic to believe that. That's why they didn't allow for us to have education.
Mhm.
All right. That's why all the information of Dick and Jane and all that other kind of mess was provided to those in this continent, because this continent was controlled by a European continent. You never hear about the history of Europe being the dominant factor and how it subjugated and ruled in it because it was so horrendous and so foul, all right, that it wouldn't be palatable, okay? Our educational system was inhibited because they couldn't allow for us to be educated, because then we would understand what time it was, okay? By the time that we were brought to this continent, and I mentioned this last time, the number of ships and the numbers of blacks that were brought here in slavery, you hear nothing about that in your education system.
Sure.
Okay? The numbers are absolutely horrendous. Okay? It was the native people that identified that because of the number of ships coming to Africa, and actually they came from Africa, then to South America, and then back up, because it was all, they didn't even have names in that particular time, changed the whole migrating habits of sharks. Okay, now you have to think about that. You know, the oceans are huge, much larger than the continents. All right? That's the reason why we couldn't be educated. That's why we were not educated until the 40s.
So I have a question. Where did slavery start?
Huh?
Where did slavery start?
Where did slavery start?
Where did it start? What I'm saying is that we speak a lot about how Europeans took Africans away from.
I know where you're going on that.
No, but it's a good question.
Well, it's so good of a question that all you have to do is really kind of think about it, because the only context that you have was written by Europeans.
Okay, so you're saying it didn't start?
I say that there can be no validity to whatever they say. All right, because you ain't gonna tell the truth on yourself and put it out to the masses of people. All right.
Okay.
The only thing that you can really be relational to is knowledge from South America. Go back into your educational system. In your educational system, what did you learn about South America? You ever remember hearing anything about South America? You know
Not
why?
much of anything. Yeah.
All right. Because they couldn't say anything because it was easy to get to. And you'd find out that it was all a lie. All right. None of the written documentation in this country would ever give you that information. All right. The pittance that they give us about slavery gives us no consciousness about exactly what it was.
Okay.
All right.
So here's another question.
Before we get
Oh, go
there,
ahead.
let me jump in real quick because Mr. Williams says, hope and prayer is our enemy. That is what religion has fed us. Spirituality fed us a consciousness to do for self.
Yes.
Servitude is not slavery. So I want to throw that out there.
And let me do this real quick because when we're on the floor, I know everybody, we want to get everybody a chance to talk. So make sure y'all be mindful of your time when you're talking. So give people another chance to talk because give everybody a chance to give dialogue.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then plus give her a chance to, you know, make sure you be conscious so we can make sure that the audience are voices are being heard as well. And then we can read our topics because we got other numbers in there too. So just be conscious of that. That's all I'm asking.
We have no information about any reality because all of our descendants were victims of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
We have no understanding about our spirituality because of slavery.
Sure.
Because of the domination, and this is why these issues right now between China and Japan and the United States,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how they talk about the way the United States is going, they're going to have a war with China and all this. We, Africans here in America, except for those who were in the armed forces and went overseas, of which the number of particularly blacks that deserted from the army and stayed overseas has never been documented. Okay? We are still walking in the dark. And the information that I'm getting right now, I've only got it in the last 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'll be 80.
Well, and then you know, and when we dealing with information and how because everybody don't comprehend the same way. Everybody don't translate or interpret information to its full perspective spectrum. So, and it's going to take some people some time to understand certain things. Just like we know that in slavery they brought some over, and we know there was some already here. We knew they took some here, took them over to the West Indies, to the South America, to Brazil, and all this to strip them away from their families and to reprogram the youth in order before they brought them back over here. We know that they did a lot of we know they did a lot of different tricks because they had a lot of different trades to do to brainwash.
The information that you're saying superficially is correct. Context is wrong because we were taught that Indians were in here when they came here.
Well, yeah, that's what they said. But that's not 100%.
But who was here when they came here?
We were.
We were.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can tell by the statues and stuff that they have.
Yeah, we were.
And
all right.
Going up and down the Mississippi. All the way to
their total existence emanates out of Europe. Total. Okay. And it wasn't until the time that they were able to negotiate with their closest auspices, China, did they get their hands on gunpowder.
Yeah.
When they got their hands on gunpowder, that was the end of it all.
Well, and then plus when they was able to strip the youth from the elders and was able to indoctrinate them.
What time frame? I don't understand your time frame.
You going back from the time when they took the Africans from here, took them over to the West Indies, took them to South America.
We were already in the West Indies.
Well, they had. I'm talking about the ones they took from here.
That's
I'm talking from
slaves
America.
the slaves that they took from here.
From here
We
to
were already in the other
to
countries.
reprogram us because they had to steal us from. They took us from families, took the youth, we say, and then took them down there, and because they had to separate them, so then they can indoctrinate them before they brought them back.
That's European education. Okay?
What was they doing with them?
There was nothing but slavery.
Yeah, we know that part.
Europeans did nothing but create slavery.
So what you saying that they? So when
and
they
because they had gunpowder.
So what I'm saying, so when they had one plantation, we just go. We use, since you want to go there. Let's go. It's because we can argue semantics, but I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna give you some facts too. One of the things they did, they had to take the youth away from the elders because the elders was the one that was teaching them.
Will you take the youth away from where?
I'm not gonna keep answering your question. I'm just gonna speak mine.
But
You speak yours, and I'm gonna speak mine. Okay, hold on.
From where?
The youth. You know who the youth is.
The youth from where? Africa?
Oh my goodness! I just said here.
They took the youth from here in America?
Plantations. They took them from America. They took them over. They took Americans from America, took them over to South America.
They were already in South America.
We talking about from here.
They were already in South. We were already in South America.
They was all over. But I'm saying, but they had to take families from families, and they had to take them somewhere to reprogram them. They couldn't program them in front of their family because the elders was
reprogrammed in South America. And South America is black. Because
they had camps that they had camps and stuff that they had training camps.
Trade camps where?
All over.
Where?
They had them in Brazil. They had them in Jamaica. They had them in they had them all over the training camps. They had them in Caribbeans. They had them
slavery camps.
Yeah, that's what they took them down there to reprogram to reprogram. They had to take certain people from different tribes. What you want to call them, different tribes or different.
Europeans were doing all this.
Yes, they was taking them over here because they still them over here.
Europeans were taking ships that could have carried no more tops than 300 of them into a continent that was totally black, and they had slaves.
Yes.
And the black people there went for that.
Yes.
Where'd you get that information from?
Well, I'm gonna send it to you.
Where'd you get it from?
I'm gonna send it to you.
Don't send it to me. Tell me you got it from.
I'm gonna send it to you. It's better. I'm gonna send it to you because I don't have the information on me right now. It's in my archive.
Who wrote the book? Where'd you get the book from?
I'm gonna send it to you. So stop talking about it.
So if
Let's move to the next.
So if we jump back into the
Hey, hold on before we go.
Okay.
I don't like this debate thing that you're trying to do. Okay, now, if we're gonna have a discussion, let's have a discussion. Don't keep asking me questions. Just answer. Say your piece, and I'm gonna say my piece. Reason why I'm saying that because what you're doing, you're making it difficult for everybody to understand. If you wanted to have a discussion, tell me what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what I say. If you disagree, say show me, and I'll tell you. I'm gonna give you the information later. I have all the information. I don't have it on me because I'm not carrying everything on me. But when we're talking about slavery and we're talking about all these different types of slavery, we know that they took people from here, took people from over there, and they took them and put them in different ports, and where they had training sessions where they was training different people, different tribe or different culture, wherever they were. We say tribes. They took them from languages over here, took them over here so they can reprogram them, and then brought them back, separate them from their family. That was an ongoing thing. That's the only way how they was able to do a lot of these things. They couldn't just do it in front of, because families, elders was teaching. That's why if you looked at Roots, they showed you how they was taking them away and they sent them over to another plantation and doing all these other things.
That's why I apologized when we first came on. Because I wouldn't put us in this kind of position if I did not have the information that would substantiate exactly what I'm saying.
Well, you bring your information, I bring mine.
No documentation created by any European that has validity. Anything that would stipulate some of the things that you just said would have had to be created by Europeans, because there is no
Actually, these are black folks that said that.
Can I say one thing?
Go ahead, and I'm jumping in after you.
You know, because we're on a podcast and there are so many people watching, it is important that whatever information that you present, that you're able to support it with authors, book names, so that the people
Give a
can
reference.
search out that information for themselves. Because see, the very thing what's going on right now is the very thing that people complain about when they talk about whether it be church houses or any other place. Same thing they're complaining about, because guess what? People give their opinions with no support.
Yes.
And expect the people to just eat it all up.
Take it and run.
That's how people are miseducated. They're miseducated by people's opinions
Yes.
no facts. So anything that you present, you should be able to back it up
Yes.
with authors, books, or whatever the case may be, so that the people can be educated.
They make their own decision.
We want to teach the people to educate themselves, so that they're not listening to regurgitated information and just believing you at your word.
I agree. I agree totally with what you're saying. The difficulty lies, though, is that I'm 80. That automatically gives me at least
30 years over me.
30 years.
Yeah.
All right. I don't even say anything that I don't know if necessary. That's why they throw me off. That's why they threw me off of other television programs, because you don't want to put that kind of information on the actual television, because they'll shut you off. Because you get, when I start talking about Europeans, you get too close to where the difficulty lies.
Yeah.
As it applies to how much of our education is invalid because the Europeans taught us, and there is no, outside of the masonry, there is no European education that will ever let you understand their guiltiness in the demise of nations of black people. Okay? We are at the point right now. That's why I'm talking about this thing, and I'll reiterate again. The reason why I'm so agitated is because of Dr. Umar Johnson. Because since the time we brought him here to Omaha, he's been to 3 other cities, and those cities haven't been the same since, because the information that he's giving out, they do challenge it. But he's doctorate and all that other kind of stuff. He can name off the books and name off that other kind of stuff to repudiate. I can't do that, but I make sure that I take the information from those who I know that do have it, so that if I do have to produce it, then I do. We at this stage of the game, particularly where we're at, and I'm very surprised we're still on. I keep telling y'all that we at this stage of the game, particularly where our children are in the educational system here in Omaha, Nebraska, and the things that need to get done as it applies to ensuring their development. The things that they are changing in the educational system as it applies to Black history is absolutely unbelievable. They have just about taken the consciousness title of Black history out. They call it American history. All right, and saying that because Africans in America, and that's what we're studying, are Americans, they're not going to do that. And that's because they can't falsify the information that they want to put out.
Yeah, they already did that in Florida. Governor Newsom, they have no Black history in teaching in Florida. They voted that.
And when we challenge each other like that, that's what's supposed to happen.
So it's good, healthy challenges, but we just have to make sure that we don't have to keep asking each other when, where. I will prefer you to state your purpose, forever hold your claim, and then let the next person come back and rebuke that, whatever that is, and then allow them to prove their fact, because if you proving me wrong, you must prove the fact Now, if I'm trying to prove you wrong, then I have to prove that.
It,
And I just think that sometimes what happens, what gets lost is that, we want to be right, but sometimes you got to understand. Like I said, Dr. Chris Whistler and all of them, they spoke on a lot of these things that happened. John Henry Clark and all of them. So there's a whole bunch of them. I got so many archives. I got to go in there and I will pull them up and I will send them to you directly.
Well,
These are black people. This is not even white people saying this. So I'm just saying.
I've got all their information.
So if we get back to the We Are Doomed, if we get back to that, we just have a few more to get to before we run out of our time. But the next one says, are single parent homes contributing to these problems by projecting a mindset of singleness as well as a mistrust for the opposite sex?
In all due respect, for us to even verbalize on any legitimacy of single parents' homes is ludicrous. Okay? Any single parent home.
You're saying is not a home.
Automatically,
it's not a home because there's not two parents in the home.
You can't have that kind of structure because the home is the embodiment of security. And an individual, whether male or female, male can't handle a home by himself with young kids. No possible way. He can protect them,
sure,
but he can't nourish them.
Sure.
And it's vice versa. That's why they keep our families broke up. All right? And we are so, I'm sorry.
Is it, well, when you say they keep our families broke up, is it they or is it we?
No, it's not we. We're victims.
I think it's the both.
No, it can't be.
Because at some point we accepted it.
My question is,
I get it that they entered it.
I understand that that's how it started.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing that.
But at this point, we're willing.
But my question is, where we are today, there's nobody taking fathers out of the homes today. There's nobody taking mothers out of the home today by force. No, what I'm saying is, I'm not talking about not going to prison. I'm not talking about that.
That's all it is.
No, listen to what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, okay, you have to look at who's forcing drugs down the throat or in the veins of a mother or father, or the case may be. Who's forcing them to go out, commit robbery or burglary or any of those crimes? Who's forcing them to do that? That in and of itself, it's a matter of, when you think about a home, when you think about, it's like who's forcing a man to quit his job knowing that he's got a family at home to take care of. It's
right.
Like you get into your emotions and you quit your job because somebody on your job
they told you
off,
something,
and so
right.
Therefore you say, well, I'm gonna quit. Screw these people. No, it's not screw the people. You screwing the family.
If you are a slave and you're shackled to your job, you can't break it. We are at the situation now that Europeans have got us so brainwashed that we are mentally shackled.
And I don't.
Here, let me jump in real quick. Delum Strong says, if we have always said that their teaching is wrong, whitewashed, or narrative based, why are we bothered that they're taking out what they're taking out of school? Also, why haven't we bridged the gap with truth? Wesley Williams also says, we take them to their schools because the laws will send you to jail. And then Delum comes back and says, if we always have someone to blame, we will never take actions into our own hands. Hashtag accountability season. And then Sippy King just jumped in and said, bad influences, and it's the choice of the individual.
Yes.
So,
if so, then why are we having these programs?
Programs to provide information.
If they saying information is already out there, why are we doing the program? That's what they're saying. The information is already out there.
Well, the thing is, my beloved elder, is that we're information is out there, but everybody don't research and look for it. So as we creating, that's why they create certain things for because everybody don't want to pick up a book. Everybody, just like people go to church, everybody don't pick up their Bible and read for themselves. They go to church and hear from the person who's supposed to be called with God to give them the message. So the thing is that even as us moving in this type of environment, there's people that likes to hear from this type of setting.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we do, we try to tell them, hey, we don't want to steer them or steer them away from hope. We don't want to steer them from you can. We want them to know, can't. We want them to know that they can, because we can do anything once we put our mind to it. There's enough of us can change any dynamic we want to if we come together collectively.
Obviously not.
Real
Or else
quick.
we wouldn't be here doing
Having this
program.
conversation. Well, William Carlisle says, if you don't like the public education system, you have the option to homeschool. Bringing into the next one, the question is too many of our men in prison, and when they're released, their conviction still follows them. We must have food, water, air, shelter to survive. If any of these basic needs are not met, then humans cannot survive, and many do return back to prison for the same crimes.
And in that regard, can I argue with that fact? That is a fact. Okay, it is difficult when men come out of prisons. It is difficult. You have a felony on your record, and then you got to put that on every application. It is difficult because people are biased, even though they say they're not.
Sure.
They are.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. It is a fact that people don't want to give you a second chance.
Sure.
Okay, that is a fact.
Facts.
Okay. However,
Can we not go?
It's a matter of, again, like I said earlier, it's a matter of what do you do about the upcoming generations?
Right.
Okay. How do you take what you've experienced, what you've learned, what you've suffered by, and pass it on to the next generation so that they understand not to be in the same predicament. Okay. In other words, it's a matter of taking your history and making it work for you, versus taking your history and allowing it to keep you stagnant.
Give me an example.
An example.
I don't understand that what you just said. I don't understand it.
Taking the history
and letting it work for you.
No. Give me an example of a situation that we've been talking about, that you take that information and just pass it on to them without a solution.
Well, the solution, when he's giving the information, he is giving a solution. There's always when there's a problem, within the problem, there's a solution lies in the problem. If this says there's too many drug heads out there, what's the solutions? Get off drugs. That is the solution. But how do you get off drugs? That is the problem that they have to figure out.
The solution is not get off of drugs. Solution is for the environment to stop the drugs from coming in.
That's not.
No,
That's not going to happen.
No, that's not.
Here's an example.
That's not going to happen.
That's not gonna
You can't
stop
stop it from coming.
Okay, if I had a weapon and I sat it right there, that weapon is no threat to anybody sitting in this room until somebody picks it up and uses it.
Right.
Okay, so in other words, what you just said, stop the drugs from coming in. Just because the drugs come in don't mean you gotta take them. Doesn't mean you have to use them. That's a choice.
Fentanyl is killing people, but they make a choice to still take it. It's killing people, and they know it, and they still making a choice to take it.
What is it about the people that causes them to have to take drugs?
We don't know. We don't know what's in people's mindset.
For that addiction to make up.
Okay,
Here,
well,
let me.
No, here it is. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, because we're getting too far behind. Delome Strong says, we do the work for those that can't. It's hard, but not impossible. William Carlisle was asking a question inside of the chat. He said, Wesley, not many have the resources, but collectively we can redirect and educate our children. Delome Strong says, first, by losing the attitude that they're unreachable.
Yes,
Master Enoch says, there are too many of us that are too ignorant to want to research, and even more of us who don't care about the future of our people as a whole. We are doomed because of self-hate, hopelessness, Give me 1 second. He wrote a long one. If I can get to it. Enoch, sorry. Okay. Hopelessness, among other things. Wesley came back and said, instead of spending money on recreational activities, invest in our own educational system.
Yes.
I understand that. You say yes, but how can you do that?
How can
Easily.
without changing the system that you're in?
So
you have to have accreditation
sure.
to get so-called certified education. If you don't send your kids to a place that is certified,
well,
it's not considered as education.
You've been talking about Umar. Umar has been on, having schools, right? This is his mission. So if he is on the mission of we need to educate our own and have our own schools, then he should have a blueprint. So that's one of the things that can be done. How do we get that education? By those that are already doing it. There are schools that are with just our education. Black people, I'm not sure here in Omaha, don't know about it, not even in the Midwest, but there are in certain areas that has this. So what we have to do, we have to work together, find it, and use that blueprint. Like we can't just hold that information in because it can be done and it has been done. That's not new.
When the Black Agenda Alliance brought Dr. Umar Johnson in here, they had a program activity that was set up to do that same thing. The number of individuals who work in those kinds of areas that have the capabilities of doing those things purposely do not come because they know by the reputation that Dr. Umar Johnson has, making himself an independent school system will take the money out of Europeans' hands and put it in the Black community hands. So they told them not to support that. That goes on across the country.
Absolutely, it does, and he still pushes his agenda.
But the thing is, the bigger picture of that whole thing is, it's not that that's one individual. Okay, let's say hypothetically right now we can see where a lot of our problems is at. We got somebody running for office in our state. They running for senator, they're running for congressman, whatever they're running for. Anything that can do, anything can help that can change some laws on the books that can help us economically, whatever they can do in office. We don't even get together as a collective and buy our votes.
Right.
We don't put nothing in, we don't get together and write an agenda.
Right.
We don't do. That's where it starts.
That's historical.
If people don't understand that they all stakeholders in this thing called life, everybody's a stakeholder, and whatever you put into it is what you're gonna receive out of it. If people are not putting in and they're sitting on their hands, guess what they're gonna get? Some warm hands.
Okay, so we've got a couple comments that came in here. Sippy King says it's a mental and spiritual thing when it comes to drugs. Drugs corrupt the mind. Wesley says drugs are a form of self-medication. Sippy came back and said some people feel like marijuana is more of a medication drug, since it grows from the ground. Sippy King also said he feels like all drugs affect the choices and decisions. Finally, Master Enoch says, let the parasites in our community be burned in the street. Those that murder our people, send them to prison for life. And those that rape our women, be castrated. We need to cleanse our community of the dead weight.
Well, and the only thing I would say is this. Was there another one?
Well, William is talking back with Wesley, so no, not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
We talk so much about history. Okay. History has its place. In history, there's education. There's experience.
It's a lesson.
There's values. There's lessons. Okay. We have to take the lessons and leave the pain. And what I mean by that is, it's not that the pain is not there, but you can't allow the pain to control. It's that you don't deny the pain, but you take that pain and you make it work for you. That pain is what's called the passion. That pain is what drives your why. That pain is what makes you say, you know what, I'm so tired of being in this condition, I'm going to do something about it. But you can either continue to live in history, or you can let history move you into your future. But it's if you decide to say, you know what, I'm gonna live back here. I'm gonna live back here in bitterness.
Mm-hmm.
It's those who choose to do drugs because they say, hey, I'm just gonna live in bitterness. I'm gonna live in sadness. I'm gonna live in depression. I'm gonna live in this place. I'm gonna make a home in this place, and I'm gonna take things and do things that will continue to allow me to stay in this place. That's living.
Yeah, and that's what Harriet Tubman was. What do you think she went through? You think it was easy for her just to try to help slaves be free, become free? You think she had to go? You think she had to trust people she didn't know she can trust? Mm-hmm. She had to walk through swamps and stuff, with alligators and water moccasins, and she had to watch out for those that she's freeing might turn on her and kill her to take them back to the whites. Mm-hmm. So there's pain in everything you do, but guess what? Her vision was straightforward. She looked and she seen the future.
Yeah, she walked through.
Name me 3 other Black women that did the same thing.
That freed slaves, or that
were here.
Well, if you would have started the civil rights movement, you could start with Rosa Parks. She was one. And a lot of them women who started the civil rights movement, it was the women that started the civil rights movement. The men were just the protectors and the security of it. And Martin Luther King became the face of it. But the women was actually ones that was actually doing the put in the work. That's where it all started, from the women.
Brother Elijah, what was the purpose of the question?
We are so controlled by the educational system and the programming system that we have just enough information to make us think that we can alter the system.
Well, then the Black Wall Street. Now, they was functioning, they was striving, thriving, in a system that wouldn't allow that, but they did, and that wasn't just in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You had Philadelphia, you had Harlem, you had Chicago.
Did you get that information in your school, or did you get that from the bookstores?
That definitely wasn't in school. No.
That's what I'm telling you.
No,
but
we got
that from our ancestors.
We got the information, but we didn't get it from the teacher.
And here again, I apologized in the first of the show because I knew it was going to happen. But I'm acting. I'm not acting. I'm expounding the way that I'm doing it, because I've been through these things before, all right? And the knowledge and the sincerity that we have, and even the level of responses that we get, causes for us to take on another type of responsibility, okay? We don't have any types of political representations. We don't have any types of civil representations that are constantly dealing with our community, even though it's small, in a directional point of view. And that I feel that I can't regurgitate the same things that I know have happened over the last 40 years. I'm not going to let us be in a 40-year consciousness, all right? Because it's not beneficial to us, first of all. And in that, it doesn't strive for us to take on what I perceive as a responsibility of communication to the masses of people.
Mm-hmm.
So
All
check
right.
this out. We've got Master Enoch here that says it's all good dialogue, but action is dependent on a mass of people who don't care. So the so-called Negro will never rise in a country that is set up to destroy you. They control the minds of our children, so we are made defenseless.
And that's the kind of psychological, not in all respect to whoever's stating that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's the kind of psychological imprisonment that I think that programs and individuals like this need to get past. It, to me, is absolutely shameful that we ain't been shut off already.
Hmm.
Why? Because we ain't hitting no nerve. They ain't been hit before and they ain't worried about it.
Well, you know, and you know, and the thing that I look at is, you know, as long as it reaches people and we able to give them some type of understanding from an educational and knowledgeable stand, then hopefully one day what we talking about will spark something in many where they would take up arms, which means the education that they're getting, and go out and find like-minded individuals and then start making the necessary changes.
That's exactly the point I'm bringing up. But I've been at this for, I'd say 40. This is probably
but you know what?
Years.
But you know what? But you know the thing that kills me, because I was sit back and I was watching a lot of groups that pop up that wants to do for the community. Guess who the first thing they go after? The children. And the reason why it's not effective just going after the children, because remember it says the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. It's like drinking poison and sitting back, waiting and watching to see if someone else die. If you've been going after the children all this time and you haven't seen a dent in anything, then there's a problem. That means you got to redirect that. You got to redirect. That means that we need to be like the military. We need to attack everything. So that means that if the families is the problem, the mothers and the fathers are not coming together. They're not on one accord, and they're not in the same household or whatever the reason that's it. We need people that's gonna go after them who ain't afraid to deal with some ornery, stubborn, elderly or young adults who don't want to listen. We need them. Then we need those who are able to deal with the youth. Them young teenagers that is rebellious and this and that. Then we need the ones that we need those who deal with them stubborn old elderly, you know. So we need an octopus of agents to go out and do parts on everybody.
Let me give you an example of why I understand what you're saying, but it has already been proven to me that don't work. I told you about the DMC, disproportionate minority contact, and how they identified that black males at the age of 17 and 18 years old weren't proficient so that they could stay in foster care till they 25. Those now see that there were black people that went along with that BS.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah.
These are people that are leaders in our community.
Yeah.
Okay. As opposed
and
to
probably come from broken homes.
Huh?
And they probably bitter.
Yeah.
They probably bitter at blacks and bitter at their mamas, bitter at their daddy, and they sit in a position of authority, bitter at their own family. So guess what? They don't have no love for family, so they don't have no love for anything they sign on to.
For those of us who recognize those kind of things, for us not to at this stage of the game attack those elements that would be positive to letting a black male stay in a foster care situation and paying Europeans to take care of him until he's 25 years old, we need to be shot.
Okay, so then here's the question. Again, look for the solution. Okay? How about we find a way for them not to go into foster care in the first place?
Or prison. Or single
place.
being a
You
single
can't
parent.
do that because all the families are single parent households and all the men are already in prison.
But we got to get to the
I was
solution.
raised in a single parent household.
Pardon?
I was raised in a single parent household, so therefore, I know what can be done from my own experience.
You've expressed that your ability individually. The Creator gave you enough self within yourself to do that.
But see, it ain't about me. See, what I'm saying is, what I'm trying to say is, if it's good for me, it's good for anybody.
Can't be.
No, it can be.
If it was, it would be.
No, it's choice.
No.
Yes.
What choice?
See,
in order to make a choice, you have to have choices.
This is the thing. No, I didn't have choices. I made a choice. But I had choices. The choices were limited. I worked with what I had. And what I'm saying is, families work with what they have. In other words, one person said it earlier, William Carlisle said it earlier when he said, if you don't like the educational system, then you can always homeschool. Sure. In other words, or even if you are a parent to send your child to a school, you can still educate them even after they get home. In other words, you provide them with the sources that they need to give them the information that they need. Right. Just like some of the information we're talking about today. That's why I said come with sources, because if you come with sources, then those same parents can take those sources, read them to their children, and then their children can read it to their children's children, and the stuff gets passed down. That's why I say it's so very important that if you're going to present information, come with the sources with it so that everybody can read it, so that everybody has access, that you don't just keep it to yourself and say, oh, well, I know this, and I know that, and I know this, and I know that. Screw that. That's being self-centered. Be other-centered and take the information that you have and make it available for everybody. That's how you bring about change.
How you going to do that?
The same stuff that you know, the same stuff that you're saying, hey, I know this and I know that, and this is where I got it from, and these are the authors. Hey, I've talked to this person, I've listened to that person, I've listened to that person, and they've come with the books. They've come with the authors. Now, go back, take notes, or if you've already taken notes, come back to the show and present those notes so that people can be helped, so they can be helped out of the situation. But to sit around and say, oh, well, there's just no possible way. We can't. Yep. We're not going to be able to. We've got these shackles on our mind that can't be broken. No, that is laying down and allowing your enemies to walk all over you.
That's why I explained to you the full background and the things that I do overall. I don't just do this thing for this show. This is 24/7 with me. I'm very much aware, particularly as it applies to Omaha and regionally in a lot of the areas. When I'm expressing the things right now, I wish that someone could repudiate what I say. Okay?
They need sources of your information. People need sources of your information.
To repudiate it.
No. They need to show me the sources of their information that is repudiating what I'm saying. I'm the one that's 80 years old, all right? If what I'm telling you about what it is not true, don't tell me I'm wrong, all right? Because I know you don't know enough right off the top unless you've been involved in this. And if you've been involved with this, I already know that, all right? Prove me wrong. And
you know, you're 100% right. And you know, and the thing is, remember, I always ask that one question. I always say, because, you know, when we talk about the condition of our community, and we talk about the mental health. Now, we went back and studied the mental health, and we just looked back from the time when they wanted to eat at their restaurants. If you ask the elders back then, why did you fought so hard and was willing to die for someone, your enemy, to prepare your food and feed it to you and bring it from the back of the kitchen where you can't even see them cooking your food, and you fought so hard and was willing to die just to have them cook your food when we was cooking, they was eating our food. Why do we want to go that deep to go to have them cook our food and then turn around and then fought so hard to go to their school?
The analogy, the concept that you're talking about is understandable.
And these are the 80-year-olds we asking the questions to.
The issue is not the matter of being able to eat at a restaurant. The ability is to be able to move around like any other human being and do whatever. Now, the whoever chooses to talk about going into restaurants and going to those things, those are visual kinds of things. They wanted to integrate schools. They wanted to integrate into the community. You don't hear about us wanting to integrate anymore, all right? Because we done found out that the Europeans ain't got a pot to piss in or window to throw out of it either. They just as victimized consciously in America as we are, all right?
So why would you express
Because you
separatism
don't
then?
step out of slavery in 1865. How many years ago was that? Okay,
time.
less than 100 years ago. That's three generations. All right. You don't come out of the flag when you walk down the street just because you black. Somebody can shoot you. All right.
Mm-hmm.
We ain't talking about that. We're talking about being able to be secure in our environment. The restaurants is just a passe way to do that. And we still aren't secure in our environment because there are just enough of us to have been assimilated. Some people call them Uncle Toms. Assimilated into Eurocentric culture where they can live amongst Europeans and be infiltrated by thought that, well, all of us ain't like that. Well, no, we know all ain't like that because this capitalist system is more damning to their own people than it is to us. It's a pimping situation in America all the way around.
But reason why I'm asking, reason why I led up to that conversation, because when you keep using the word can't, y'all was the one who y'all the one that got this generations the way they are, because the things that y'all went and fought for, the things that y'all went after civil instead of going after humanity.
Give me an example of what you would have done. What would you have
I'm not saying, I'm just saying for my knowledge now, because you asked for education. I'm telling you what education. You said we had to be educated, right? So me going being educated and learning, and I'm saying, okay, well, what was the first problematic thing that I see as far as my education now? Because I wasn't there at that time. So what I can say, well, they wanted to go into a restaurant and eat their food. How sick is that? They're going to poison our food.
So the example would be ownership. That would be, for me, that would be the example.
For an elder to say, yeah, we were wrong.
What did we miss? We missed ownership. We missed having our own. Instead, we wanted to, can I have a seat at your table, as opposed to, hey, our community, let's create our own table, and here's our own bank, our own schools, our own restaurants. We don't have to force ourselves to be into their, it's almost the idea of like the Amish. When I lived in St. Louis, there was an Amish community there, and that community, there's a school there, they have that, everything that they need is right there in that community.
Yeah.
And so they are not. But what I'm saying is that is what we needed. That is what when you were asking the question, that's what I would have done if I was in the forefront at that time, 80 or 85 at this point, 90 years old right now. That would have been my push, would have been ownership.
Because we don't control the media. Most of the civil rights issues, particularly as they dealt with issues on restaurants, was talking about the South. All right. In the North, there were enough solid communities that you didn't necessarily have to eat at, because black people couldn't move into a segregated place. They moved into communities. All right. East St. Louis, all right,
Chicago,
that they did their own thing, so we had to worry. We didn't want to integrate, all right, but we still wanted to have the same kinds of access to services. That's why the full integration civil rights thing was utilized throughout the whole country. It wasn't about having no restaurant. It's just being able to go to a filling station without somebody telling you that you couldn't use their bathroom.
But didn't you say, but don't you remember you was telling us that here in Nebraska, Omaha, that you didn't go past 16th and you didn't go past what street was that?
Oh no. Coming into Omaha, see, you talk about the Midwest.
I'm talking for the blacks.
You talk blacks, Midwest. The only reason why blacks came here was because of the packing houses and the railroads.
I'm talking about what was the
because of the
demographic?
Because of the geographical area. When they came here, they came first to what they perceived as a black community. There was no black community in Omaha. There was a Hebraic community, and Jewish people are still considered. I'm talking about Hebraic Jews who are black.
Yes.
All right. They had already established a community in 16th all the way to 30th Street, from at that time, Miller Park to Cummings. All right?
Okay.
Because they
a
had
community.
revenue, they could build schools, Long schools, Kellen schools, all those kind of places. So when the blacks came here, and the Hebraic community had integrated in the whites community, they had to worry about no more. They still owned the stores. So black people came in and immediately got jobs and grocery stores, which made Omaha the same, if not better than Tulsa. All right? Omaha, during the same period of time with Tulsa, it were the identical same things. But they didn't talk about Omaha.
Well, Harlem and all them other cities is doing the same thing.
The consciousness about civil rights is completely different than human rights.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
That's a fact.
We're not talking about civil rights no more. We're talking about human rights. You can't have a situation where the society has controlled the ability to function to where there are more women ahead of households than there are family units, and the prisons are locked up with males. Why they like that is based upon the conditions that they are forced to operate in. All right, which is still based upon racism.
Yeah, we know.
So
right.
let me grab this one. So Master Enoch says the elders should have fought for equal funding for our schools, not integrate. Government-backed black business grants. He said he has a list of demands that could have been made.
No black communities built any of the schools in Omaha, Nebraska. We were somewhat involved in the rebuilding of Keller, but all the other schools were already built by the Hebraic community. So when we talk about building and those kind of things, we particularly in this Midwestern area, we weren't. The South is a whole other different thing, and I don't want to talk about the South.
Yeah.
I wasn't even there.
Sure.
Well, and I'm not trying to push blame. I'm not trying to push all the blame on the elder. But what I'm, what I'm saying, what I'm saying is that if we, because every time we have these conversations, you use can't. Y'all did. Y'all did things that just, which why we so in the messed up state that we are now. Because because of the slavery mindset, as you said.
Give me an example. Don't just say it. Give me an example.
The civil rights movement. Y'all went after civil rights when we should have went for humanity.
Yeah.
Because once they would have fought for humanity, they could have sued the United States for the cruelty to humanity. That's what Standing Bear fought for.
No, the Native Americans, they didn't do that. The only ones that did that.
Standing Bear.
No.
Go look at it. It was the Charles of Trier. That's what they fought for.
That was no numbers. You're not talking about numbers. You're talking about numbers. There's only one ethnic group. Well, that's the truth.
They didn't win that. They didn't win that lawsuit against the United States.
What did they get?
They got reparations.
Beside the mountain with the statues on it. What else they get?
They got reparations.
Who got reparations?
Don't they get a monthly stipend?
Who?
The Native Americans.
Security check.
They get monthly.
Who?
Native.
They get to go free school. They get
on the reservation.
Man, they get a lot. They get a lot of
reservation.
They get a lot of perks. They got their own reservation. They got their own schools. They got their own churches. They got their own stores. They got everything
On the reservation.
Yeah, but that's
theirs.
When they got the right for humanity, they gave them.
As long as they stay on the reservation.
Those that don't live on the reservation right now still get a monthly stipend. They get a monthly allowance or monthly reparation.
It have to be at least the grandparents, none of the kids.
Someone my age is getting.
Kids,
I know for
I know
a fact,
my cousins.
Someone my age is getting something every single. She gets it every. And
they get money from
month.
the casinos that they
and
building.
She doesn't live on a reservation.
They get money from all kinds of things.
But I don't remember them getting the children getting a stipend separately after they grow into maturity.
Oh yeah.
Well,
she's my age.
Well, when they fall for,
she has one.
Is she married?
Nope.
Okay, that's what that is.
But but I'm just saying with our elders, we don't have to ask the question because you up in that age. and you can answer the question a lot of youth want to know. This is what the youth want to know. They want to know, why did they go after civil rights instead of humanity? Why did they want to eat in the restaurants versus eating at their own restaurant? Why did they want to integrate in their schools? Now they're complaining about their schools is what's poisoning them. They poison us through the foods. Now that we still only have civil rights, them rights that ain't even working for us. So look at the Jews about to get another. They about to get it. They already had the reparation. Now they talking about giving them some more reparation inside of the United States where it didn't even happen at.
And most of them aren't blood you break.
Well, we've got another, we got two comments here. One says, we're not just talking about Omaha, we're
Yes.
talking about the demands for all of our people. And then another comment.
Ask them why they say that.
He said that because after we made the comment on what the elders, that there was a list of demands, then you came in and started talking about Omaha. And so then that's why that's where that comment came from. And so then here we go. We have another comment that says that we should have at least gotten the same deal as the Indians. And then Steve Abraham says Standing Bear actually left the reservation due to his nephew dying in Oklahoma. And I also wanted to bring in this other point that says, who, Steve?
He keep calling no more.
No more. Steve, Brother Elijah said, no more for you. That was your last comment. He said, invite yourself in, have a seat at the table. And we want to get to another point, but that it says that with all the tall tale signs, that we're seeing people prepare for a nuclear war. They're preparing bunkers and, stocking up on some things. Are we prepared?
No.
Anything. If there's a nuclear war, if there is, say that there's that solar energy that they're saying that could take everything out, they're saying that we can have a solar shutdown and no internet, no television.
Are they from out of town? Or
No.
Are they here in Omaha?
That is locally.
As long as you live within a 20, 30-mile radius of Offutt Air Base, you ain't never got to worry about nothing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the president of the United States can be secure at Omaha. But the thing is that does that secure me?
Who?
I can't get into Offutt.
You don't need to get in Offutt.
So you're saying that because the president can go down into the bunker, everything surrounding there is safe. The bunker is safe.
The bunker is just to protect him.
Correct.
You won't be able to get within 500 miles circumference of that facility. I don't care what you got. Okay? Within a 500-mile radius, that's nuclear. Within a 500-mile radius, nothing will be able to get past that. That's why you ever go to Offutt and sit and watch planes take off and come back?
Oh, yeah, they always do the touchdowns. They do them from here, they do them from Missouri, Iowa. Absolutely.
There are close to 6 planes that stay in the air.
Yeah.
Okay, so you ain't ever got to worry about stuff like that. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, but they can blow up something way up there, and the debris can travel. They got them bombs that travels with the wind that can cause massive destruction to the body, to the health. We see that right now. They practicing on stuff right now while people getting sick for no reason.
If that happens here, you can guarantee that everywhere around you is already dead.
Yeah, I know. I was saying.
So that's what I'm saying. So those kind, that's what I'm saying. That's why I don't think about leaving from here. All right. That's why I'm always talking about
Omaha's safe.
No, you can't be no safer than right here. I don't care what color you are. If you in America, you will find no better, safer place than a 500-mile radius around Offutt Air Base. They ain't gonna let nothing happen to them.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to what's our solution?
That's to our own self be true. All right. We have to be able to guarantee that our children are able to read and comprehend.
Yeah.
And comprehend.
The only way that you can guarantee that is to have access to legitimate communication lines.
Well, Where do the communication lines start?
Where's the telecommunications center of the world?
But what they say is what is the fastest networking system that they ever had?
Where is the telecommunication center? Where is the major communicating center? I'll just say in the United States.
I don't know. Where is it?
New York, California,
Where did
Chicago.
Where did the telephone center? Where did the telephone center start in the United States? I don't know that.
No, tell us.
Omaha, Nebraska. Omaha, Nebraska is the telecommunications center of the world. Where is the railroad center of the world?
Here.
Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah, I know. Union Pacific.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't know telecommunication was.
The telephone system. That's where they started, right here.
Have a look at it. Oh, okay. Well, we're at that time. We need to close down. This was an interesting topic. I like everybody give their final thoughts. Who was it?
The piece that we're talking about the family unit and the men in prison. The thing that we're talking about is having a cohesive situation as a people that will somewhat guarantee that our offspring have a half of a chance. Okay? And that element can only be challenged if there's another system that finds it necessary for us not to be able to function. If they recognize that we as a people don't need to exist, they have to figure out a way to get rid of us. As long as they keep talking about rights and those other kind of things, we should be exposed to every element that anyone else has, particularly as it applies to communications. If you can't do those kind of things and implement those kind of things that give you those kinds of responses, particularly in your educational system, if you can't control the educational system in your community, if you can't guarantee that your rights and those kinds of things are equal, then your whole existence should be doing nothing but, you shouldn't ignore it. Everything that you do should be directed towards that. That's what I'm saying as far as programming concerned. The issues that we talk about, there has to be a way to legitimize those kind of things. If they're not legitimate, then they need to be challenged. And if we don't do that, then it's, like I call it, it's coming backwards. That's what's going backwards. It don't work that way.
So I want to understand when you say that telecommunications started in Omaha. In the United States, it started in Omaha.
Centralized here.
Explain that to me, because when I do a Google search about the telecommunications, I'm not seeing Omaha as the top, as the leader in this. So that's so explain it to me so that I can find that information. You see what I mean?
They're not gonna identify it as a business sign. You have to look at if you have phones, cellular phones in New York, that signal ain't coming from Omaha, Nebraska. If you have, they still got phones on lines and stuff.
Landlines?
Landlines.
Yeah, unfortunately.
They still have the wires, telephone poles that carry the signal? Mm-hmm. Okay. All of those may have emanated out in New York. Because that East Coast is where people came to, some from the South.
New Haven, Connecticut is what I'm seeing.
That's all come this way. After the full control of the United States was in place, because you remember, I don't know if y'all remember, that it used to be that you could pick up a phone and you just talk. I don't remember those days, do you? You ever heard like they had
Talk to an operator?
computer operators?
Talk to an operator?
You had to talk directly to an
Oh,
operator.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean
Yes.
that. Yeah, I
That
was
was a
about-
job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody
And
had a
she
job.
passed. She dispatched you
All
to.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dispatched you to the right person.
That was a job. They got rid of that.
When that system was altered, the centralization came in Omaha. The centralization of that signal because it was in the Midwest. All right. A lot of the lines still run underground.
Mhm.
Okay. The security factors, like we'll never really know what it is because you got to have certain security clearances just to find out what they're doing. But those kind of things you can get. When we talk about the rights of people, and we talk about the haves and the have-nots, there are certain things that have to be in place for you to even to qualify for those kind of things. And traditionally, we have not been exposed to those things until the Industrial Revolution, when people came from the South and moved up into the North to work in the factories. That educational process, because it happened so fast, wasn't generated amongst family units. After World War II, principally World War II, Korean War and the Vietnam War, so many of the males were either killed or maimed so bad that the real kind of control of all of that was passed off to the women. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. And the concepts of family units and those other kind of things, which are the American dream, are applied unilaterally, but because of our position in this country, we really have not been able to take advantage of that, which calls for us in some kind of conversations not to take on the same role that other people do naturally, because it's not natural. We still are inhibited in many different ways from taking up the American dream. And to try to place yourself in that situation as it applies to how you confront it can be very dangerous to yourself.
Before we get out of here, let me
Yeah.
say this before we get out of here. Master Enoch, explain what you're talking about for me, please. Give me the subject line, because he just made a comment that says not correct at all. So I just want to make sure that we know what subject line, if it was something that the elder was saying, and also before you want to go ahead, I was going to read Wesley Williams' comment.
Yeah, that should have been read first. Yeah, go ahead.
And so before I give, no, I'm not sure if Master Enoch was challenging something you said, but I wanted to give him a chance to get it out there because I know we were on our final thoughts and whatnot. And before I give mine, I'll read.
Systems, he said.
It's about the phone systems. He said that that's incorrect when we were talking about the phone systems. And I believe the reason why, one, because we can't find that information. So that's why when you said that about the telecommunications, I immediately went to source it because I was like, well, I thought that it was somewhere else, you know. And so, yeah, so that's why. But yeah, that's what he was talking about. Before I give my final thought, Wesley Williams, he says his final thought is that we are doomed. Please prove me wrong. And so that is his final thought. And I would say for my final thought, I would just say that each one teach one. I think that we are not doomed if we can go back to teaching.
You doomed us as melanated people or us as a civilization?
I'm saying us as Black people.
As a nation, as a people, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of our theme for today. We are doomed. And so that's what Wesley said, yes. Wesley said, yes, we are doomed. But I'm saying we're not doomed if we can teach. There's a lot of things that are not being taught, and we need to get back to that basis because we don't have a basic. There's no foundation.
This is the family structure of men in prison.
And I get that. Yes, sir, you are right. There's men in prison. There are single family homes. My point is that because there are men in prison and there's single parent homes, we can't say, oh, screw it. I can't say that because I still got these kids too. right? We can't say that. So for the single woman, for the single parent home, they cannot say, screw it, I can't teach you anything because there's no man here, because your father and I are divorced, so to hell with it all. We cannot say that. So how can I encourage that sister? How can I encourage that woman that does have maybe teenagers, maybe toddlers, wants to pull her hair out, maybe not even have enough money? How can I encourage her?
Or a single dad.
Or a single father.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am, sir, find
Or
the
a
light
couple.
and see the light. We have to find the light. We have to see the light, and we have to have hope. And here's the reality, as Raymond has said earlier, faith without works is dead. So if I'm not doing anything, if I'm not putting any action to it, I'm not going to get anything out of it. But I get what you're saying, that there's not a two. So how do we do it? We talked about before, another father or man that's in another home, how he has to be for that community, how he has to make himself available to help with the boys. Someone challenged Raymond to ask what he is doing for the community. What he is doing is helping young people. So those young people that he's helping may not have a father in the home. Guess what he's doing? Stepping right in. And so he has to do that.
And he has access to their parents.
So he has to do that. So he
can talk to the parents as well as he's dealing with the student. Your final thought?
My final thought is just simply, change starts with us, and that's so very important. Is that if we want to see change, then we must be that change in order for change to take place.
Right. I like that, Michael.
Well, Stephen Abraham says Offutt Air Force Base was responsible for making telecommunication work.
Make it work. I won't make it hard.
It is.
But as we talk about, are we doomed? Are we doomed? I don't believe that we're doomed. I just believe that we got to stop being lazy. I think a lot of us just got lazy, too comfortable in the current condition that we're in. I think that
ignorant.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So once we stop, once we stop,
go back to reading.
Once we start feeling the effects of sitting on thorns every day, where it makes you want to get up and do something about it, until we stop feeling comfortable with sitting on them things, then we're gonna constantly sit on them. We just haven't gotten uncomfortable yet. They said when enough is enough, that's when people start to move. So,
can I try something? I would like for the audience, this is kind of a group type of thing. I'd like for the audience here, particularly in Omaha, to look up and get as much information as they can on the DMC, disproportionate minority contact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That I've got some more information over the last week that it's worse than it was when I was
talking about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
really?
It's absolutely horrendous now.
Wow.
And it's something that I'm not sure that it applies across the board to all cities, but here in Omaha, the effect that it will have on our community is horrendous. It's before and after. Any of these kids that are raised up in that kind of situation, for a young man to be legitimately identified that he can be ignorant from the time he's 25 years old and get paid for it. That's.
So we have to create a topic for that. It's time for us to go. Well, I guess Master Enoch said something back to your thing. He said Bell Systems created all the phone networks. Then he said it was the only company. Then Wesley said, "Where's our army? Who's going to defend us? All hope and prayers." But we just need to just as a collective, just needs to start thinking collectively. Communities are built collectively. Everybody plays their part. Everybody does their part. That's how a community operates. And it does it for the benefit of helping everyone. Everyone to see and be malnutrition in it, because what you bring to the table, you bring to the table, we help another child or another person grow, and we help nurture them. If they're going without, all of us are supposed to make sure everybody's able to eat. That's how a community is supposed to function. That's what true servitude is. That will stop the word doom, because if everybody played their part, then we won't be doomed. But it's only looking like we're doomed because people are sitting on their hands and sit back watching other people fall, and then laughing and giggling, and taking out their phones and ready to record their demise than to help them. That's the problem. That's why we're saying things are doomed. Are we doomed? Let's put our phones away and let's put our hands out, because God gave us 2 hands to reach out and help someone. Gave us 2 ears to hear someone calling or crying for help. He gave us 2 eyes to see the good in people, not always see the bad. He gave us 1 tongue to speak profoundly. And we can use that to benefit us as a whole. We just got to do what we got to do as a people. But we, us and ours, love, life, loyalty.
To thine own self be true.
Peace.
A rich man's world